We don't do inboxes anymore.
No, we don't. Never. Go away.
All right, Wendell, let's start off with a question for you.
Well, it wasn't really for me. It's kind of for us, but it was emailed to me, so I guess it's whatever. Yeah, I don't even care.
Yeah, we usually only respond to questions that are on the website in the Inbox.exe forum, or the Inbox.exe forum. But this one's interesting enough. We've answered it a few times, but there may be some new insights to give.
Yeah, we've probably gotten about 50 emails lately that are basically, I'm in school or I'm going to college and I don't know what to do with my life, and you guys should pick for me, which is like, what are you doing? What are you doing? That is, you're emailing crazy random people that are one step away from being tinfoil hat nut jobs to ask what to do. This is something you need to stop and re-examine things, but
Man,
this
cough is wonderful. You know, sometimes I like to go out in public and pretend I'm a smoker. I sit around and go, I need a cigarette. Anyways, I'm sorry.
No, that's what they can do with their life. They can become a street performer and go out and, pretend that they're smoking or, whatever.
And just bum cigarettes off of everybody. And then you see what you do is you go to the middle of nowhere where cigarettes are cheap. Actually, in Kentucky, they're pretty cheap because it's also the state with the most smoking.
Well, I was going somewhere else with that because, like, you collect the cigarettes and then you build, you've seen those guys that build those elaborate things out of, like, popsicle sticks? Do that with cigarettes.
Yeah, but that requires some form of talent. We're assuming that they don't want to do anything other than just stand, or maybe even lay down on the side of the road and bum cigarettes. Here's my idea: bum cigarettes, and then you get all the cigarettes, in a place like Kentucky or somewhere that they're cheap, and then you go to New York City where they're like $10 a cigarette, and you sell them on the street. Like, hey man, what you need? I got Black and Mild, I got American Spirit, I got whatever you need, man.
And there we have the idea for the modern novelization of The Great Gatsby.
All right, seriously, I'm done. I'm done with this cough. All right.
So I got
a less sick one.
I got an email and it's from it was from Chase, and it says, "Hey guys, huge fan of the show. Try to watch as many episodes. I'm currently a freshman in college as an undecided major, and was wondering if you guys could help. Blah blah blah." It's like, I would like to learn more about servers for the internet and the new quote-unquote cloud they are pushing really hard. I have a feeling I have a natural knack for technology, but not sure what I should study. Blah blah blah. Make the internet and infrastructure a better place. What do we need to do to improve the internet? To sum it up, I would like to know what major in college best suits the growing technology field. How do you guys feel about the future infrastructure? P.S. I love you. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Chase. All right. All right. So we've gotten a lot of emails like this. And, the tinfoil hat thing is that the jobs are undergoing a dramatic shift. And if you look at the last 20 or 30 years, and generally, like, we are not economists and we don't know anything, but we kind of do have our finger on the pulse of technology, at least I think we do. And technology is changing way faster than I think society can keep up with. And so, in the 1920s and 1930s and the Industrial Revolution and things like that, mechanization is like, we're going to take away jobs. And then people were afraid of that, but historically that didn't really happen. It just shifted jobs. So instead of being a laborer, you might be the guy who works on machines. And so society had to catch up and people had to be educated to deal with that and blah, blah, blah. So really, I'm going to interpret this first as, what do we think is going to happen in the future? And my favorite quote in the world is from, well, not really, but one of my favorite quotes for this is from Isaac Asimov. And there was the article that went around, and he was like, predict, it's 1964, predict what the world's going to be like in 2014. And one of the things that he said there in that article that I had read before is that as he sees time moving forward, that one of the greatest diseases of mankind that mankind will have to wrestle with are diseases of boredom. And certainly I see the drug problem in the U.S. and the drug problem abroad and things like that as a symptom of the disease of boredom. So I'm not really sure how much better that's really going to get in the future, because technology and society and things like that enable people to work less. So perhaps there's something to that. That being said, I think that having an aptitude for technology is really a good thing for the being able to sort of have a job and have income and things like that in the future. Things that involve working with people and things that involve, uh, being clever, I think, puts you in a better position. But I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure that there's like a field that you can use for that, or that there's a major for that. You just have to look at the world around you and have critical thinking. So take classes that involve critical thinking, I guess.
I've got a different angle on all this. And, a lot of the people that I associate with now are people that I met through the similar people I met through Dungeons and Dragons, people I met through at LAN parties. Like I met Kane at a LAN party, people I used to goof off with in this field. So I think that you can go out there and you can get all the certifications in the world. You can have like 900 pieces of paper, but it's going to be just as difficult for you to get a job as it is for everybody else who went and got all those same certifications and same pieces of paper. I think a lot of it is really just who you know. If you start looking at your local meetup groups, find some like-minded people. You will be surprised. You start going to hang out with some guys, play some Dungeons and Dragons. Maybe you've got like a sci-fi meetup or something like that you want to go to. Whatever you're into, even if you're into picking daffodils, go find a picking daffodils meetup group on meetup.org or on whatever, on some website. Just go find people with local interests, start interfacing with them, take martial arts, whatever. Just get out and interface with people. That's where the opportunities come from. The opportunities, by and large, they can come from walking into an audition or an audition. I always call going in for a job interview, an audition, because that's really what it's like. It's almost the same thing as an acting audition. They're going in there and they're judging you based upon the energy that you guys exchange more than almost what's on your piece of paper. So interfacing with those people, like-minded people, can bring about all kinds of interesting opportunities. One of them maybe starts a company. One of them needs an extra guy to come help run some cables. One of them, does something crazy and needs to hire two of his friends, or one of them hears about a job opportunity at his friend's company. You're going to get a lot of stuff like that. So get out of your house and interface with people in the world that are of a like mind. That's probably the best advice that I can give, because most people that I hang out with now are people that I met exactly that way.
It really is true that you can learn. There's almost a multiplicative effect when a group of 2 or 3 people are working together toward a common goal, and you want to know more about the internet and the cloud and things like that. First off, the cloud is just a generic term to mean that you don't have control of your own data. It's just out somewhere else. So you should look at technologies like OpenStack, which is an open source based stack of technology. It's a whole bunch of open source things. You should get familiar with Linux, learn everything that you can about Linux. And basically, you're just adding more and more skills to your repertoire so that you can move horizontally wherever you need to move. And you need to focus and learn as much as you can about those specific industries and try to treat it like an art. Try to treat it like a personal Zen. I'm going to do this, and this is going to be amazing thing, not only with yourself but with your friends and your group and things like that, so that you can really level up your skills with all the different stuff that you might do. There's really no way that you can go wrong working in a technology field, and the worst thing that you can do is focus too much on one silo or one particular thing. Learn a little bit about programming, learn a little bit about networking, learn a little bit about the technologies that power the cloud, all the way from the TCP, like the TCP protocol, all the way up to application level remote procedure calls, programming stuff that you have to deal with for application support, virtualization, servers, the whole nine, quality of service, traffic shaping. You can absolutely go insane, but focus. Don't bounce from thing to thing to thing to thing. Pick 3 months or 6 months or a year and go zen with Linux, commune with Linux, and then maybe once you're comfortable, then move on to something else, but continue to commune with Linux or continue to commune with whatever whenever you have time.
Yeah, keep it on a laptop or something.
Yeah, learn like the Cisco's iOS and the commands that go with it. Cisco's done a really good job trying to unify the operating system that runs all their devices, which is a proprietary operating system. Same thing with like Juniper and things like that. I'm sure there are classes on your campus to learn about Cisco equipment. That'll give you nuts and bolts knowledge, It doesn't give you like the Zen-like understanding necessarily, but you can get that on your own as long as you're focusing on it and as long as you have the passion to really dive deeper and try to understand it at a deeper level.
You know, I've got a question for you now, Wendell, because you and I both come at this from two different angles. You're preaching education, I'm preaching interfacing with people of a like mind. Now, in order to get where you are, you had to interface with a few people. And I'm not going to say that I'm better at interfacing. In fact, I don't like communication. I'm probably worse at communicating over the phone and over email compared to you. But I do not mind going out into the world and just like bouncing around and finding people. And Kane is even better than I think just about anybody I know about that. He can bounce from place to place and you know, just walk up to anybody and like start an interesting conversation. The next thing you know, he's got 3 job offers, and it's like, what the hell? You just went in there and had a beer, and then you came out, and you've got to go tomorrow. You and I both have to go run wires at this guy's house, and then we have to go fix a laptop. And you know, it's like every time we would go somewhere, he would be like behind the bar, you know, reconfiguring Linux on their server. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm getting us free beers. Hold on a second. Like,
that works great for the first year or two of your entrepreneurial thing, and then the question in the back of your mind is, am I assuming any liability for this?
Yeah, but how did you get started as far as you know, people? Because now you've got people that call you and say, hey, can you make me a website and that sort of thing. So how did you get started as far as that goes?
Well, it does all go back to communication. So you know, that part of it is about people and interfacing and stuff like that. But a large part of it is really just getting results. I mean, when you're working for large companies, the most apt description really, and this isn't meant to be taken as a slight, but the best description really is they're sociopathic. You know, a corporation is the most sociopathic entity that mankind has ever created, generally. And in order to get the job done, they're just interested in what gets results fast and cheap. And so if you are able to look at a problem and solve it for them, then you sort of become indispensable to the organization. And that's about communication. That's about interfacing with people. That's about being able to put together a team to solve a problem, because you can't lift everything, you know, by yourself. And so that's networking on a level all its own as well. And so it does go back to sort of the soft skills, and it does sort of go back to people and things like that. But you'll get that in college. I mean, there's probably an association for computing machinery and other organizations, a robotics team, you know, whatever you want to do in college, and those are really good ways to meet and interface with like-minded people. Because you can't, I mean, the worst mistake that you can make in college is to just show up, go to class, do the thing, and then go home. You really have to participate at a deeper level and sort of, you know, go full native and be, you know, sort of Buddhist Zen one with the campus in order to be able to get the most out of it.
I think that's probably about all that we're going to say. The last thing that I'll cover on this is my own opinion of the future. And I think as we move forward in the future, the current technology companies that exist are, I'm not sure if they're moving things forward or if they're moving things sideways. A lot of them are trying to, you know, control things. The internet, they're all about control right now. It's going to open up a lot of interesting opportunities for smaller, non-evil companies. So again, that's going to go into, you know, people that you know locally. They may say, hey, we're opening up a local non-evil ISP. You want to help us out? So I think that the future is going to create some interesting opportunities, both with the big companies and also with these new developing small companies. There's probably going to be a lot of that, a lot of like small community companies, and you know, the people in Congress and that sort of thing are not going to understand it. We can't expect them to understand it. At this point, it should be, you know, par for the course that when we see some new bit of technology come out, they're all going to jump up and down, say it's the devil, and try to stop it. So we just have to like do our own thing, kind of ignore them, and I mean, there's got to be some way to vote them out of power or something. Just keep notes on who the idiots are. But guys, people don't understand technology, and they're afraid of what they don't understand, or they're being fed misinformation by lobbyists who work for major companies who don't want new technologies to come out because they changed the paradigm, and they like the paradigm because that's how they make their freaking money. So, again, I love small companies, and I love you know, interfacing with like-minded individuals. So take my advice in that regard. At the same time, take Wendell's advice as far as you know, information and getting the job done, because putting those two together will be a really strong package. And the one thing you don't want to do is just sit in a black hole all day, sending out resumes. Just sending out resumes. That's what you do. You sit around and play video games all day and send out 50 resumes. That's probably the wrong way to go about it. Who knows? Maybe you'll get a call on that, but that's probably the least effective method. You know?
I know a few people that wanted to become sort of cogs in the machine and have succeeded very well at, getting the 9 to 5 cubicle job, but that's not for me.
Well, the interesting thing about being a cog in a machine is a lot of times, I always tell people if you don't enjoy something, don't do it. However, if that's the only way that you can put food on the table and take care of yourself, be a cog in a machine. I guess last year I read I Was. Steve Wozniak was a cog in a machine. I believe he was working at Hewlett Packard, or just Hewlett, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Hewlett Packard.
He was a cog in the machine, and in the book, he goes into great detail about how important it is to moonlight on your own projects, have your own ideas, even if it's something like building a game server, making a website, working on an indie game or something like that. Have your own projects that you do when you get home, so that when you get home, you're not just hopping on the television and watching whatever mindless junk comes out, comes out of that damn noise box.
I remember actually taking a business class in college, and one of the examples in the business class was about Wozniak and Hewlett Packard, and they did not name Wozniak by name in the story, but in the business class it was like, it was, I don't really know I don't even remember the title of the class, but it was a business class and it was about running a business and that sort of thing. And the situation in the class was, it was like, how important are having legal agreements in place and that kind of thing. And it said Hewlett Packard was responsible for the birth of the personal computer industry. They had an employee who had on their own time developed the personal computer, and because they had no agreements in place with the employee was free to start up their own company, and that would become a multi-billion trillion dollar industry, and HP basically could have owned and controlled it. And that's not the whole truth, but it was completely straight-laced, not tongue-in-cheek. But it was an argument for how modern companies always have to have ironclad legal agreements with their employees that anything they invent on or off the clock must be owned by them. And I was like, well, wait a minute. The story here is that Woz was moonlighting, and he went to HP, and HP was like, yeah, who would even be interested in a personal computer? We'll let this go. HP actually had that kind of an agreement in place already. They just let it go. But in college, the context of that was, oh no, this is ironclad, you can't let it go. And so I think a lot of people that do have successful moonlighting things get shafted by their employer, or projects never see the light of day. So open source is maybe one way that some of that's mitigated, because once the source is out there, there's not much the company can do.
Yeah, and just be very careful about all the contracts that you're going to be forced to sign, because a lot of times if you're someone who has higher aspirations or whatever, you're going to get bit in the ass by the contracts that you just signed, because there's 50 of them and you have to sign all of them to have a job, and then you're screwed. Anyway, you ready to move on to a couple other questions? I think we're just going to answer a couple more because we really got into that one in this video, and hopefully it helped out a few of you guys and give you guys some ideas. And the main thing that I always want to give you guys is not even really an idea, just this much motivation, just to get out of your freaking chair and do something, even if it's just to make a sandwich, whatever. At least I've motivated you to move around a little bit. So that much motivation can go a long way. And anytime you find yourself doing a mindless or repetitive task, ask yourself how you can improve it. And that's really the best way to sort of go about doing things. If you have to do something 800 times, there's no reason that you can't sort of study what you're doing and try to improve it. The most dangerous thing you can do is let your brain's really good at going on autopilot, so you can think about other things while you're doing something else. And that is a surefire way toward mediocrity. You can't turn your brain off when you're doing things. You need to focus on what you're doing so that you can do it better than the last times that you did it, and really critically analyze it. That's the best way toward self-improvement. Yeah, we've probably got some viewers out there with an entire desktop full of bat files for exactly this sort of thing. Like, I am so sick of going and doing this and this and this. Yeah. All right, let's go on to a question here from the actual forum, which is what we normally are supposed to do. So this question is from Anas bin Qamar. It's probably an Indian name. I'm not sure how to say that. Anas bin Qamar? Qamar? Yeah. Can you die answering your cell phone while it's charging? I think you meant to say, may you die? And yes, you may. Yes, if you like.
You have our permission.
Yes, by all means. Improving concentration and memory. I have not read this yet. We're just kind of winging this and having a little fun. Okay, so this may seem weird, but it's an area I can't figure out how to make work. I can easily be distracted. I can't always stick to one subject. More so in programming. I'm trying to learn Python, but my attention always leads me elsewhere. How can I stop this? And my memory is also awful. Stop smoking weed, dude. Just stop smoking weed.
Most of the time, this kind of thing is really just about discipline, and most of the time you can improve memory and retention and things like that by actually, I mean, this sounds weird, but by actually trying to remember and by actually sort of making a mental note. You can, depending on how your brain's wired, association, like word association or acronyms or things like that. Me personally, I see things in pictures, and so sometimes when I'm translating a picture to words, I don't get it right. And this is very often the case with proper names and things like that. Like I will be saying spatula and talking about spatulas, and in my head I will have a picture of a fork, and I'll just be saying the word spatula over and over again and not understand why somebody doesn't understand what I'm saying. And so it's remembering things in pictures is sort of how I do it. You'll do it differently. Everybody's different. But one thing you can do is when you get up in the morning, read 2 or 3 articles on your phone or whatever, and then at the end of the day or right before you go to bed, write down what you remember from those 3 articles, and you'll find that very quickly, in probably a week or 2, maybe less, you'll start to recover more and more and more details as you go to bed from the things at the beginning of the day. And that's really the first step toward discipline. Try to adopt a routine as well. I mean, I hate routines personally, but if you adopt a routine, that will also help you sort of focus, because it's not just, it's like I want to learn Python. It's also about your environment. It's also about your mental state. It's also about sort of giving your brain advance warning that it's going to have to learn stuff so that you retain it.
Are you ready for my hippie live in the woods response here?
Eat right and go to sleep on time?
Yeah, things that I don't follow a lot of this advice, and I sit around and curse myself all the time for not following it. And the reason that I actually mess up so much is that I am always, I don't know, Wendell, lately I've developed this thing where if I don't feel like I'm doing something productive, I feel like I'm wasting my time. And it's like, sometimes I just have to force myself to stop trying to be productive, because it gets to a point where I'm not actually being productive anymore because I'm so distracted and so not in the moment of working, and I just can't focus on anything, but I keep trying harder and harder. I'm like, no, must keep doing whatever I'm doing. So
the trick is to give yourself something far worse to do. It's like, oh, I can't focus on this right now. It's like, all right, well then we're going to go do some terrible menial manual labor thing.
Yeah, well, something, when I took martial arts way back when or whatever, it was a Japanese martial art, and one of the things that we did was after you did something, you do something very intense for about 20 to 30 minutes, you stop for 10 minutes and you do not do anything else. You let that stuff sink in. That'll help your memory, number one. That really, really helps a lot of the stuff we were doing sink in. So I end up drinking a lot of tea. Even here, I'm always boiling water to get up and have more tea. So that gives me a chance to get up and move around a little bit. That helps. But yeah, just a small break, every hour or so. I mean, it doesn't have to be 20, 30 minutes, but I usually do it per task. You have one certain task. You finish that task, and before you move on to the next task, take just a really short break to get up and move around and change your context, then sit back down and start the next task. The other thing I like to do is, I'd love to go outside and hike. You got to break up your day with a little bit of, outside hiking, just something that's not constant information coming into your head from your computer screen or a television set or a phone. Put your freaking phone down sometimes and just go outside. That really helps a lot. And the other thing that helps me, probably more than most things, especially when I'm overworking myself, B12, vitamin B12, pop one of those. It makes you more alert. It actually makes you happy. It's kind of interesting how our body needs certain vitamins in order to be happy. But yeah, take a B12, maybe a vitamin D if you're not getting outside enough, and just watch what happens. The vitamins play a huge role in the mind. And a lot of these different over-the-counter things you see that are called alertness plus 17. I think that's a D&D spell, but you know what I mean? These alertness pills or smart pills or whatever. You look at the back and it's like a multivitamin, but they're charging extra money because they're branding it as something that's going to help you think. Just take your vitamins, man. Hang out and be groovy. So, yeah. All right, anything else we want to answer here? Let's see here. He says here in this question, here we support Kane and Logan's alcoholism. Hey, man, I only drink couple times a week when I'm doing streams and stuff. Anyway, whatever. Tech Syndicate donation methods does not accept my premium Visa. This is unacceptable. Well, what could it be, Wendell? What do you think?
It should be fine as long as the address matches and as long as it's not on like the fraud list or anything like that, and and you're from one of the countries on the list that we've been approved to take money from.
Yeah, there's just certain countries they don't work in.
It should work with PayPal, chip in, or worst case scenario, sign up for an account and send us some Bitcoin.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's see what else we got here. Maybe one more, then we'll be done. This is a question for Wendell. You already answered this here.
Ta-da!
It's the Ubiquity, but you know what? Let's go ahead and mention this for our audience, and then we'll be done. Wendell, Linus mentioned that you suggested an access point called Ubiquity, Unify AP/AC. Do you have this access point? And when yes, could you do a review of it, please? And okay. When yes.
Okay, so we've been running Ubiquity access points for a couple of years now. Pretty much the only access points we use are the Ubiquity or Cisco. Cisco is pricey. If you want to use a standalone Cisco access point, they're doing, at least with I think it's the 3500 series that we have that does the upgrade module. So if you want to run an AC 3500 with the AC upgrade module, you also have to have a Cisco ASA router, and there's software that runs on the router to control the access point. And it's very often the case that we don't have a Cisco router, we just have the access points. So looking for an alternative, the Ubiquities are 95% as good. The firmware can be a little flakier. The secret sauce for success with the Ubiquity is that you run the prior generation access points in parallel with the newer generation access points, because when the AC access points first came out, the firmware was absolutely terrible, and now the firmware is pretty much almost completely okay. There's a couple of not super important but kind of important features that aren't quite there yet. Linus was having trouble with the zero handoff, which works great on the N access points. I think it's kind of working or pretty much okay on the beta version of the AC access points, but the Ubiquities are really awesome. Now, the bad news is that they're like $300 for an access point, but it will be the last access point you buy until you decide to upgrade to a different platform. So it's a trade-off, but they also have multiple radios. Your typical access point can only handle one or two devices at the same time. Like if somebody's watching Netflix in your house and then somebody else goes to stream a game, the performance is terrible. Well, these are commercial devices, so handling 2, 3, 4 clients doing something like that is not really a problem.
I do think the handoff is probably going to be a lot better now. I think the day that Linus uploaded his video, they released a new firmware like the day before, but I'm sure he shot the video several days before, because the one thing, everyone sees like the videos from us and Linus and whatever, and they're like, hey man, 2 days ago there were new drivers. Well, we probably shot that 2 weeks ago. We just have a queue of things that we're doing. So anyway, there should be a new firmware now that should fix a lot of those handoff issues. So Linus, if you're watching, try the new firmware and let us know how it works for you. Wendell is running a mix of N and AC access points, and it works pretty good with that, with the handoff, right, Wendell?
Yes, yeah, but I have not, admittedly, I haven't done the NVIDIA Shield thing, so it may be a problem specific to NVIDIA Shield. But using remote desktop, like I've got a mobile remote desktop on my laptop, remoted into another machine elsewhere. Even watching a YouTube video, it doesn't. I don't have to rejoin the network. It actually lets me go from place to place, and it's okay. It might be the case. Yeah, it might be the case that it hitches for like 500 milliseconds, or it could be something Shield specific. Don't have one to test with, but maybe I could set up the Steam streaming or something like that and try it. I need to do that. But at any rate, it's a really minor thing right now on the AC access points, and the N access points are solid.
All right, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I want to thank all of you guys, especially our tech support members. Right now, you guys are helping us upgrade the website. We're doing that right now. Are we not, Wendell? It's going on.
We are indeed. Yes.
Yeah, probably this week, right? We got all kinds of things going on.
Yep.
Several pages of notes we've made, and that right now is pretty much just whatever money is in the tech support, we're putting straight towards the development of the website to make the user experience better for you guys. So thanks a lot for all that. It's really awesome. And we got all our other cool icons over here on the side now, so you guys can.
And we have an editor.
Yeah, we got an editor for 1 or 2 days a week now. What I'm doing is I'm making like several videos, and after I get like a bunch piled up, I edit them normally, and Pistol edits them normally. Whenever we have a bunch piled up, he comes over and edits a whole bunch. So it's been very helpful, and that's straight, tech support money, really helping the website, guys. So thank you very much for that, and we'll see you guys in the next video.